First question has come in here from Sammy. Hi there, Sammy. Thanks for tuning in here. Sammy's asking, what are the effects of negative equity and how can I avoid them if the market tanks in the future? Okay there, Sammy. Well, nice and short question, so thank you for that. So for those of you that aren't aware, negative equity is when the value or the amount of the mortgage is more than the property is actually worth. So to give you an example using round figures, your mortgage value is 100,000 and you take that out on a property that's say worth 120,000, and then the value of the property market drops by 40%, and your property value is now worth less than the 100,000 of mortgage. So your property value is probably worth, trying to do the maths in my head here, probably about £80,000, using rough numbers. So your property value is only worth 80, but you still owe the bank 100. And that's when you get into that negative equity situation. Okay. Now, it doesn't just have to be the mortgage. I have known other people take secured loans against a property and, secured additional debt against that particular property, which is what makes it a problem when it comes to refinancing a property or then selling a property when the market has taken a dip. Okay. Now, the problem that most people have is that they've been told this, shall we say, this story that the property market only goes up over time. And that's kind of true, because if you look at the long-term trend over, say, 100 years, yes, property values have gone up significantly over that period of time. But that's usually attributable to the amount of funny money, if you like, or debt or fiat currency that's in the economy that allows people to borrow more against the property value. Okay, and that forces up over time or causing an inflation of the property value. And the question I ask a lot of people is, if you couldn't go to a bank and take out a mortgage for 2 or 3 times what you're earning or more, what would the property actually be worth? And that's an interesting one to contemplate, because actually there's no way properties would be worth anywhere near what they're worth today if you couldn't go and find an additional source to raise that additional capital to go and acquire the properties. Okay, because there would be far few people about with the resources to actually finance the acquisition of those properties. Does that make sense? So it's a really interesting scenario that we've got ourselves into, the availability of capital from mainstream lenders such as banks, building societies, and all the rest of it have artificially also increased the value of property, which is why you end up with 25, 30, 40-year mortgages now coming to the marketplace in order to extend the period of borrowing in order to increase the amount somebody can borrow, which again has an artificial impact on the price increase of property over time. Now, the reverse is also true, that when the market turns and the market starts to fall, this is what can put people into negative equity. And it's usually, if you look at graphs of property prices, when property prices start rising in a boom period, they'll come to a point where they get to a certain peak. And it's when it's that top of the peak where people have been buying in the last sort of 6 months to 18 months, shall we say, of the boom period, that when the market turns and it starts to fall, it's those people that usually get trapped into some kind of negative equity. Okay. And it can be a bit of a challenge, because you're then stuck with this property that has little or no equity in it. So what do you do with it? And in certain cases in the 1980s, when this happened, a lot of people were just handing the keys back to their homes to their bank and just saying, you know what, take it, because I can't afford these mortgage payments. And in certain situations, they were forced into negative equity. So if the property's got little to no equity in it, then some people will choose to hand the keys back to the bank. I don't think that's a particularly wise strategy, because well, it depends what your financing is on that particular property. But if you're in that position where the property's got little to no equity in it, and you hand the keys back to the bank, they're going to start to run up costs in terms of their administrators to administer the sale of the property, plus all of their fees and everything else. So they're going to start to add on fees to that purported debt. And then when the property is eventually sold, they'll come after you for the balance, right? Whereas if you just, if you needed to move from that property, it's pointless selling it because there's little or no equity in it. So why not rent it out? and use the rental income to cover the outgoing expenses. Obviously, it's different if you're kind of separating. Okay, and I have seen this scenario with a couple that were separating. I think we were in Milton Keynes on a mentorship there, and there was a couple that had separated, and I was speaking to the estate agents about this, and I asked them the question, how do you deal with properties in negative equity, right? And they said, oh, it's simple. You know, we just, we had a property that was in negative equity. So we just put the sellers who were splitting up in front of our financial advisor, and they both got £10,000 loans to cover the cost of the negative equity. And I was like, okay, I don't know whether that's a good strategy to put somebody into debt for 7 years to pay back this situation when they could have come to some arrangement to hold the property over that period of time, taken rental income, use that to cover the cost of the mortgage, and then when the property market starts to pick up again, then ride that increase in value. Okay, so I know this is probably jumping around a little bit, but there's a lot that I kind of want to build into this answer to give you the best possible feedback here, Sammy. But you know, if you're in that position, then the pressure comes from people like your lenders. You know, for example, if you've got equity financing on that property or a portfolio, and then the portfolio drops in value because the market has fallen, the lender then may put pressure on you to ask you to, you know, alter your equity position in their favor. So they may say, well, we want you to maintain a 65% loan to value across your portfolio, and because the market drops, that increase in loan to value goes up to, say, 75%. They may well say, well, we want you to reduce it by 10%, which ultimately means you've got to pay them cash to reduce your overall borrowing. Okay, so it depends who it is. Obviously, if you're a homeowner who's bought their property, and you know you're in that property for 10 or 20 years, whether the value drops by 20% probably isn't going to matter over the course of that term, because ultimately the market should recover and come back again. But if you find yourself in that position, you know, of being in negative equity, then I would look at treading water for that period of time. And if you don't need to sell, obviously it doesn't become a problem. It's only when you need to sell that it becomes an issue. Whether if you're forced into that position by the lender, then that's clearly the biggest issue. What you can also do is to look to make overpayments. So, for example, if you took the example of getting permission from your lender, renting the property out, and then using that that rental income to pay down the mortgage. So you're not just paying the mortgage payment, but you're also paying everything that you're receiving in rent down off the mortgage. That can help you to get out of that negative equity position a lot quicker as well. Okay, so you might be able to do that, but again, it depends what your interest rate is on the loan, because interest rates can rise, and they are, you know, some people have found that their mortgage rate has risen substantially recently. That can also start to eat away at you, and it can become a very difficult position. So if you're in this position and you're struggling, Sammy, or you know somebody who is, then the other thing that you might be able to do is look at doing something like an option agreement or a rent to buy, as it's commonly known, and that can help to put you a long-term tenant into the property, somebody who's prepared to pay a little bit of cash up front, and then is prepared to take on perhaps the increased payments that are due every single month, and will maintain and look after the property as if it's their own. Okay, I don't want to go into all the ramifications of that, Sammy. So if you're in that position and you want to know a little bit more, reach out to me. Happy to help at WiggyWam.co.uk, and we'll have a conversation, and I can guide you through exactly how to put that together and how it's going to work in your favor in a lot more detail than I can perhaps on this webinar this evening. Okay, so I know we've covered a lot of ground there, Sammy. I hope it was helpful. Maybe you want to go back and listen to this a little bit over and over again, just to sort of get the little nuggets of information that's in there. But as I say, it's a problem that I think is going to affect quite a few people over the course of the next 24 months. And, you know, if you do know people that are in that position, I've known very experienced investors get caught out. They got caught out in 2008 when the market dropped. They couldn't refinance properties that they bought, and they were doing up, and they were refinancing, and they were buying and doing up and refinancing, and they just got caught out when the market dropped. They couldn't refinance. They were in negative equity, and they were really struggling. So more than happy to help anybody out who's in that position. And yeah, just reach out to me and let me know. All right. So that's the end of today's webinar, guys. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. I'm sorry, it's it's coming up for I think it's like gone midnight now, half 12 at night or something. And as I say, we're due to travel tomorrow, so need to go and get some rest in. But thank you so much for being here, for tuning in. If you got value from anything that we've explored here today, guys, any of the questions that we've outlined, please do share this on social media with your friends and family, and do invite them to submit questions or tune into future episodes of Get Your Property Questions Answered webinars and podcasts. We'd love to have them come and join us and to submit their questions and get some support in their journey. Feel free to also go to our website, which is WiggyWam.co.uk, and have an explore on there, because we've built in a number of really cool resources for people that are looking to move house, or for businesses that are looking to grow in the current uncertain economic times. There's something amazing that we've got planned, which is coming out very, very soon. I'm so excited about it. I'm really struggling to keep my mouth shut about it, but it'll have to wait because we've, it's not quite ready to be unveiled at this moment in time. But do please keep in contact and in tune with us. If you like the idea of making money from helping other people and putting valuable products and services out into the marketplace, then we'd love to hear from you as well, because we can do some amazing things together. So thanks again for tuning in. Any questions or comments or feedback that you'd like to send through to us, you can send that through to happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. You can also submit questions, comments, feedback on our website, which is wiggywam.co.uk, and also on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is WiggyWam_UK. All right, you guys, thanks so much indeed again, and look forward to seeing you on another webinar in the not too distant future. All right, you take care. Thanks. Bye.